So, welcome back to another video, and as you can probably see from the setup, we are doing by half a yearly declutter, and as I think with the declutter videos before, I will do this so that we will do the eyeshadows in one video, and then I'm gonna look through my lip and cheek product drawer and see that if I will even do a video of those all together, I will just declutter them outside of the camera, or if I will do a video to put those in together. But based on just viewing, the eyeshadow palette declutters are usually more popular, and it does take some time to film these, so that is why I am considering that, still considering how I will deal with the cheek products and lips. But regarding the palettes, I think we will first start with the drugstore brand palettes, then we will go through the higher end palettes, and lastly we will do the indie eyeshadow palettes. And I do think, looking at the stuff before me, there is definitely some palettes that I think that it's about time to let go of them. But anyway, let's now first get to the drugstore section of the video. Okay, let's first start with the easiest pile, and I'm trying to see that we are on full view. So first one is this one. So this is the By Beauty Bay Rich palette, and this is the 16 pan version of it. This is not going anywhere. I actually do like the formula of this and the color story of this, and this is definitely staying. However, a palette that I did already discuss in the collective palette review video that's already up on my channel in my review playlist, the Reckless Romance from Beauty Bay. This one, unfortunately, is something that I will be getting rid of because, first of all, it was a bit too grey toned for my taste, and also the shimmer formula is also something that creases on me. So this has a bit of a different shimmer formula than the other Beauty Bay palettes that I have, so they do feel kind of almost wet to the touch, which because I do have an oily leaning skin type, this formula seems to be something that I would need glitter glue or something to make the shadow stick. If you like this kind of color story, and if you haven't suffered from creasing with the Beauty Bay shimmers before, then I would maybe recommend this, because otherwise I was quite happy with the formula. It's just that the color story and the shimmer formulations for me in this case just weren't it, so this is going away. Then a palette that's not going anywhere, so this is the Earthy 42 pan version. Sorry, this is very hard to get on frame. Definitely staying. Unlike the newest palette that I just showed from the brand, this has the sort of similar formula to the Rich palette and the Berry palette that I will show after this one. So with this one, I haven't had the issue of creasing with the shimmers. Mattes work beautifully, and this is one of the few green palettes in my collection that I actually do gravitate towards, and this is especially a palette that I like to use during the fall time, but that's staying. And then last of the Beauty Bay palette, so this is the Berries palette, and I have always said that you definitely don't need like this big of a pink palette, but I am a lover of pinks, and that is the reason why I bought this in the bigger version. However, I have always said that you can actually probably with this one manage also with the 16 pan version that they do make this in, but this is also definitely staying. Then let's get to these ones. So these are my Catrice palette. So this is the 5 in a box mini palette, and I think with this one, it's time to let this one go. I am definitely like feeling that the formula in this one wasn't so great to begin with. However, I have used this plenty during my travels, but especially the shimmers that have been my favorite of these palettes, they have been like, I have had the issues that they are beginning to hard pan. So this has been well used and well loved, but I think it's time to let this one go. Then I think the only Catrice palette that will be staying, this is the Blushing Oceans, and I think this was the last sort of Slim Pro palette that they had. They have now renamed this sort of palette, but this is how it looks like. And I do have to say that the palette after this, even though it's a newer one, I do think that this actually does have a bit better formula, so this is staying. And this is lastly the Blooming Romance. So this was from their sort of newer palettes from their last spring launch that they had this year. However, unfortunately, I wasn't too impressed with the formula of this one. I am also not a fan that they made this sort of cheap see-through like cover. I much more liked it when they had the full-on like cover in these sort of rectangular palettes, but this was just meh. Also, I felt that this didn't have a super lot of diversity, so that is the reason why this is also going away. Then just quickly a palette that's not going anywhere. So this is the W7 Influence palette. This is a dupe for Huda Beauty Empowered palette. I actually do like the formula. This one I have said that if you like this kind of color story and you can find this on the drugstore, this is actually a pretty decent palette to work with. Then let's go to... I am doing this, by the way, on my bed, so if you're thinking where I'm reaching for, it's the other end. So this is the Mrs. Glam palette, and this was sort of my retry of BPerfect after have taken quite a lot of long break from the brand, and this is one of their bigger palettes. So this has both cheek products and eyeshadows. I mentioned this in the collective eyeshadow palette review that I did feel that you did kind of get quite samey looks with this one considering how many shades there is in this one, but I still do actually did like the formula of this one, and I can't use the like bronzer cheek products, those are too deep for me, but the blushes and the highlighter that's over here, these do work fine, so this is staying. This one. So let's go to MUA. So I have always said that if you MUA is a brand that's easily accessible to you. In drugstore, I would recommend the brand 100% in terms of eyeshadows. So this is not going anywhere. This is the Desert Bloom. I have only swatched this on my channel, but based on the swatches, this has a very, very good formula for the drugstore. And the shimmers were very beautiful, very shiny. And the mattes felt very buttery. I am very excited when I'm gonna get this into my makeup rotation and try this. So this is staying. However, something that I am going to declutter is this one. So this is the soft nude. So this is their sort of neutral leaning, brown neutral leaning palette. I did like the quality of this one. I do feel that the matte quality and also the shimmer quality is very on par with their other sort of palettes. However, this has, even though this looks like on the pan that it has the sort of shiny wet formula, actually the shimmers are quite sort of more metallic leaning when you get them onto your lids, and I like more of their sort of wet shiny formula that their sort of other palettes have. So just because of I prefer the shimmer formula in their other palettes that they have, that's the reason why I'm getting rid of this one. But if you are a person who likes the more sort of traditional metallic leaning metallic leaning shimmers, then I would actually recommend this one. In terms of durability and how ease of use, this is the same good quality that MUA has in their other eyeshadow palettes, but just for me, because my shimmer preferences, this is going to go. Okay, this is the Illusionist. I actually bought it with the smaller palette, and based on the swatches, this also seems to have the more sort of an nicer shimmer formula, which is the sort of more like wet sparkly shimmers that they have. So I haven't tried this yet. Again, I have a shorts on my channel with swatches of this one, so this is still yet to be tried out in my rotation. And then something's not going anywhere. This has been ranked as my, I think, favorite drugstore palette from last year's ranking, and this is what made me fall in love with the MUA sort of brand. So very easy to work mattes. They do require some building, so if you have a deeper skin tone, just something to consider. But especially the shimmer is a very beautiful sparkly wet shimmer formula, best shimmer formula that I have tried from drugstore in quite some while, but this is also definitely staying. Then I'm looking in front of me. So we have one iHeart Revolution palette. I think Makeup Revolution, I don't think they have discontinued iHeart Revolution, but this sub-brand, because Makeup Revolution is known for having quite a lot of sub-brand, this sub-brand, I haven't seen them releasing that much like makeup on their Makeup Revolution's website in recent, I think within like last couple of years. They do have like their own separate line, I think in some UK drugstores. I think Primark has their own line, but in terms of something that is accessible internationally, the brand hasn't come out with a lot. And what am I gonna do? I haven't used this. This hasn't even been swatched, and this has been like on my to try list for a while. I think because this is clearly a brand that I don't know, are they scaling down their releases or are they continuing at some point, maybe discontinuing this as a brand. So I think it's time to let this one go, because this has been now, I think, in my drawers for like 3 years and I haven't done anything with it. So this is going away. Then I think we only have one more. So we have Kiko Milano, which is another European drugstore brand that is more accessible to me. So this is their holiday palette from last year. This is the holiday premiere, and this is a bit on the bulky side. I actually really liked the formula of this one. I definitely say that this had quite a lot of like improvement with the formula. So this had this sort of sparkly wet shimmers, which was something quite different from what Kiko, because Kiko's metallics before used to be more on the sort of like, well, more on the metallic side rather than on the shinier side, but this has now a more like improved shimmer formula, and the mattes are pretty good, so this is staying. Another one that is staying is this one. So this is a Glamour Multi-Finish palette, and this is in the 02. This has a name again, but Kiko doesn't put the name in these staple line palettes. I have to be a bit careful with this one because this has a crack on one of the shadows. This has what I mentioned, that Kiko having two kind of shimmer formula. So this has more the sort of metallic shimmers rather than the sparkly shimmers. But I do actually like this small palette because this has actually quite nice variety of depth, and there are like it's like not super diverse palette, but I do think that I can get like a more like sort of toned down look and then a more smokier look that I want if I want to. Then something that perhaps that I wasn't such a big fan of, so this is the Gold Reflection Golden Sunrise palette. So this is from theirs. This is actually like I think their newest, one of their newest palettes they have, because this was on their summer collection, and like this had the improved shimmer formula, but I did mention this on the Collective Eyeshadow palette review video that I included this in recently, that this is just a very meh palette, and I do have to say that I actually kind of like the other Kiko palettes that I have in my collection, because this is a very one-tone palette, mainly because of the shimmer shades, and because this has like basically four gold shimmer shades, and the one, like this one pinky shimmer that I thought that would bring some diversity to this actually is quite hard pressed, and it's not as impressive as the other gold shimmers. So I think because of the lack of diversity, even though I do think like this summer collection in general had a very nice packaging and everything, but I'm just gonna declutter this because this truly has felt like one of those palettes that I'm never gonna touch again after I have finished using this on my rotation. So even though this is new, this is going away from my collection. And then last one, this was from their holiday collection. My god, is it already like 2 years ago? So this was a Joyful Holiday, and this has been used a lot because this is one of my travel palettes. I actually did take this recently to a weekend trip, which has actually been the reason there was a 1 week I didn't have any new videos up, because I wasn't able to film during that weekend because it was quite busy and I was traveling. But while some of the shimmer formulas here are dots, especially like this one and this one over here, they look very shiny, but they're actually, even though you would like press your finger in there, you still can't get like almost any payoff from them. But I actually do like this one, and it does have actually some diversity, like not super a lot, but you can kind of get a more like mauvish look, and then you get a brown like basic golden look with this one. So even though this is getting a bit on the older side, I actually do use this quite a lot, so that is why this one is also staying. But yeah, that was the last of the drugstore brands, and let's now then move to the higher end brands next. So, as you can see, we are now on the sort of higher end side of things, and let's now first go through the obvious ones. So, the Pat McGrath pile before you, I think it's quite obvious that we are not getting rid of many of these. So this was from their holiday last year, so this is the Bijou Brilliance eyeshadow palette in Lunar Nightshade. This was actually I also had one of the bigger holiday palettes, but I ended up decluttering that already at the beginning of this year, because I just felt that wasn't, it just wasn't it for me. But actually, this one, the Quint, I actually do like this. This is kind of different from Pat McGrath because it does has actually some purples and blues in it. And these are like very nice and sparkly shimmers. Unfortunately, the matte shade, I have discussed this many times. This unfortunately was a dud. It's quite hard to work with, but the shimmers are beautiful and this is not going anywhere. Then another sort of staple Pat McGrath that has also gone a lot of trialing with me. So this was the Celestial Neurona eyeshadow palette Nude Allure, and this is how this looks like. And this is, I think, why this is such a good like staple trial palette especially, is that because these are these sort of quite traditional pink nudish tones that are quite easily to just throw on your lid if you want something quick and impactful on the go, but again, not going anywhere. And let's now go to the mothership. So if you've been on internet for a while, you probably have seen these quite many times, but we will still go through this. So this is the Mothership 1, Divine Rose, and sorry, not Mothership, so I don't remember which the number of this one, but this is the original Divine Rose palette, and this is how she looks like, and still very beautiful. I did use this last time, I think, on the New Year's, so still works really well, even though this is beginning to be on the older side of things. Then the second of the Divine Rose palettes that I have, so this is the Divine Rose 2, and mine is in the sort of special edition rose gold packaging, and this is how it looks like. And this is probably going in my makeup rotation on July, because I have said many times that this is especially a summer kind of palette to me because of the bright pink and golden tones it has, but still very beautiful. And I do think that even though this is a bit of a cliche, because Pat McGrath's palettes I think afterwards have been like repeating this palette over and over again, but I still prefer the sort of original one. Then the Utopian Dream, and why are these always so difficult to open? Moment, we're having some technical issues now. So this one, so if you have seen, probably again seen this many times, this I'd say surprisingly I think falls in the middle of this one. I do like the sort of Astral Bliss shades that this has, but the mattes here especially are something that, well, Pat McGrath's matte formula has never been my favorite, but especially with this one I have felt that sometimes with the mattes it's been like hard to get them to combine with the shimmer shades that this has, but still a very beautiful palette. And if you do like this color story and you see this on sale, I would like still grab this one. But as I've always said, never buy Pat McGrath on full price, just wait for her to have a sale. Then another palette that's not going anywhere, so this is the Danessa Myricks Groundworks 2 Blooming Romance palette, and this was one of my first Danessa Myricks palettes that I bought, so this is actually a multi-use palette. I am still thinking that should this actually be on my cheap product drawer, because I did like made the conclusion with this one that actually for cheeks I do like using this quite a lot, but for eyes it was very one-toned. Only way you could basically get depth to this is that if you use this very pale shade over here and these two darker shades, but all the mid-tone shades, at least I had the issue with my eyes that they seem to just mix into together. But what I was positively surprised about that, especially for someone who has been more oily leaning lids, the cream sort of actually didn't crease that much on my lids, and this actually did last through whole day. So very good and high quality. Just if you're looking for a lot of depth, I wouldn't maybe for eye makeup use this one, but this is still staying. Then my Dior Backstage palettes, and we all know that I have been now collecting these almost. So this one is the Silver Essentials. None of these are going away, I'm just gonna show these. So this was what got me falling in love with these palettes, and this has been one of the most impactful sort of traditional higher-end palettes that I've tried in like some time, and this still holds like I think the crown of that being the best of the Backstage palettes that I own so far. Then the Smoky Essentials. This was a bit of a meh palette for me. The quality in terms of shadows is as good as with the Silver Essentials, however, because the tones overall in this one are quite muted, the looks in this one, you aren't gonna get as much oomph to them as you can with the Silver Essentials palette. But if you like your more muted bronze looks, this is still a very good option. And then the newest one, so this is the Warm Essentials palette that was their summer launch this year. Again, I praised this. I think I ranked this as my favorite in my recent collective eyeshadow palette review. This had the sort of same very like impactful punchy colors as the Silver Essentials had, and I've been very much enjoying using this one. But none of these, as I said, are going away. Then a Tarte Big Ego palette. I'm just gonna show this again quickly because this isn't going away. I know this has gotten like quite a mixed reviews, but I have liked using this one. I think especially someone who has a rosy cool undertone, this actually suits my like undertone and skin tone generally quite well. Something that I have always said is that some of these shimmers are a bit more crumblier, so I do have to I usually like doing my base makeup afterwards, because this does have some fall off, and the mattes require some building, but I actually do like this generally. Then let's go through the two individuals. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the Pillow Talk Dreams Luxury palette. So this is the only Charlotte Tilbury palette that I own. I used to have a few of her bigger ones, but those were like already, I declared those some time ago because those were on the end of their sort of in terms of aging, those were sort of, their formula was beginning to show that they weren't as good as they used to. The quad is still very good, not the best higher-end eyeshadow formula that I have tried. I would not pay full price for this one, but I do actually like the look that I can create with this one, so it is staying. And then the Chanel Lumiere Graphique, so this was their holiday quint from last Christmas. I actually do like this. There's a very specific look that I use this for, but it is, especially if you like your more muted cool tones during winter time, this is very beautiful. I think they have a quad in Chanel's like permanent line that's quite close to this one, so if you're looking for something similar but you missed this because this was a limited edition, then I think that you are able to sort of buy a quad that has almost the same kind of color story that the quint had. Then the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes that I have. So this is the, what was this one? Fall Romance. Not going anywhere. I actually like this. I do think that she has definitely upgraded her shimmer formula. I am kind of hoping that she would soon come out with a new one. Not all of her newer palette. This was the first palette in her new formula that I bought because the previous releases haven't like interested me that much. But if she comes out with another color story that I like, then I will be getting it because I did like the formula of this one, and with this one I did like the color story and there was quite nice versatility to it. Then an OG, so this is the sultry palette. Mine is still good to use. I had a 90s themed birthday party that I attended during the springtime, and I did dig out and do sort of a 90s inspired smoky silver eye look with this one. The shimmers definitely aren't as shiny as her new formula, but this is still good to go. However, I have said now a few times that this is my last year of using this because this is getting old. So I will, at the end of this year, probably declutter it, but not yet because it's still like having its final year in my use. Then this one, sorry about the reflectiveness. So this is the Byredo Remembrance palette. I didn't get the Byredo's the sort of a big palette because they only come out with these once a year and they are usually limited edition. I didn't buy the new one because in the end I came into the conclusion that it had too much this sort of jewel toned blues and greens that I don't use. But this Remembrance palette is still a very beautiful palette and a very easy to work shimmer and matte formula, and I have always said that for spring and autumn this is sort of my favorite palette to go to. Then we have the two Huda palettes. Again, none of these are going... I don't think we're actually decluttering any from the higher end palettes, but that's only also because I don't have that, I think, mini rose quartz. This is something that I forgot to put in my cool... I recently did a cool toned eyeshadow palette recommendation video that has actually gotten quite good views from my channel. And I actually forgot this from that. This should have been definitely in the video, but this is not going anywhere. This is still my favorite Huda Beauty palette that she has ever made. And then the Naughty palette. This is more of a fall palette from her collection, from her like palettes for me. But I also do like this quite a lot because it has this sort of pinks and burgundy reds, and still very beautiful formula. Is still works very well. Then the last pile that I'm just gonna quickly show through because again nothing is going away. So my Natasha Denona palette. So I recently had the pastel palette. I'm actually gonna pastel palette. I recently had this in my rotation with the Circa de Loco palette. This still works. However, I think you having this in my rotation again proved to me why this is still isn't my like all-time favorite like eyeshadow palette, and the reason like eyeshadow pastel palette because the shimmer formula in this one is very sort of almost satin-like, so the shimmers in this one don't actually offer that much impact when you use them on your lids, but the formula is still very beautiful and you do get quite nice pastel looks with this one. And you get quite nice looks, especially if you use it in conjunction with the Circa de Loco. So this is the big palette. I managed to snag this when I was traveling on a Sephora from a sale, so I haven't paid the 100 euros that this has cost. I actually paid on like 60 euros or something for this, so it was a good deal. With the pastel palette, this is a good companion palette. I have tried to use this also alone, but if you use this as a standalone palette, I have felt that the looks are kind of deep, so this is definitely something that I prefer using with the pastel palette. But none of these are going away. Then we have the Retro Glam palette. I have made one reels with this one or YouTube shorts using this during this year. I should still do this, that I put this on my rotation, this, because I wasn't such a huge fan of this, which mainly related to the fact that I felt this could have been a 9 pan, because I do feel that a lot of the shades in this one especially seem to look very similar once you get them to your eyes, but on your eye, but I'm gonna keep this hanging, and we shall see how I feel about this at the end of this year. I haven't actually like been buying any of Natasha Denona's new palettes, you can probably see from the palettes I have. Okay, this is not going anywhere. This is the original retro palette. This is my absolute favorite rosy toned palette that I have in my collection still, period. Some of the mattes in this one are, I have felt that when I have used this, are getting a bit, I'd say, on the harder to pick up, so this is beginning to show its age. I will have to maybe see that maybe next year, that if the formula is starting to show signs of aging, will I unfortunately have to get rid of this one, but I really want to hold on to this because this is truly one of my favorite color stories in general that I have in my collection. Then the palette that I have most most strange relationship, so this is the My Dream palette. I actually have used this like quite a lot, so, but this is a color story that I don't actually prefer when I just look at this. So something about the tones that this has been picked just like has always made me think that this just isn't my favorite, but for some reason I still end up using. This is one of those palettes that if I don't know what I will wear, I will just dig out this one and just use few of the mattes and then put some of the shimmers on my lids, and you're kind of ready to go. But this is not still going anywhere, but if I will get one of the more newer neutral palettes in her newer formula that Natasha Denona has coming out with, this is the palette that I have decided will make way in my collection, so I will then declutter this one if I would get one of the newer palettes in her newer formula, but for now this gets to stay. But yeah, so sorry about, unfortunately, no declutters in the higher end palettes, but I already knew that before I was beginning to film, but I also think that because I haven't I think the Danessa Myricks was the like only newer like palette, higher end palette that I have actually bought during this year. Oh, and yeah, we had of course the Dior one, but considering like all the palettes that I have gotten, only two palettes, especially during this year, have been like higher end ones. So it definitely shows that I am buying more, maybe the indie palettes and maybe some of the drugstore palettes. But yeah, let's now then get to the big pile, which are my indie eyeshadow palettes. So now I think for the most, well, I don't know, most exciting, but this is, I think, what many people, because indie eyeshadows have been so trendy for the last couple of years, so this is probably, in terms of excitement level, these are the most exciting palettes that I own. Okay, first one is this one. So this is Kaima Cosmetics Rose and Skulls and Roses palette, and this is a new UK indie brand that I think got very popular during this year's Valentine when they released this, and I have actually, so something to consider, there is actually a pile of makeup on my desk currently, and there are cheek products and there are eyeshadow products in there that are not featured in this one because those are still waiting to be tried, and I want to feature them in a separate video. So there are actually later on, probably in a couple of weeks time, now that I again have time for filming, you will be seeing a video that will include some products that are not included in either this declutter, and if I will film the cheek and lip product declutter, then you won't see the products in those either. And I have the newest palette from them, however, this is actually an indie palette that I will declutter, and that's purely because of the color story. So this is a very deep gothic color story, and also because there were quite many shimmer shades in this one that were very, especially this one and this one, that were almost like sticky to use. They were quite hard to work with. They really like, especially someone who's in their 30s and already has some like textures on their sort of eyelids, they were just not pleasant to work with and not exactly pleasant to use. I did want to buy the newer palette the brand came out with because I do think that the owner has quite an eye for the color story, and in terms of color story I actually like the new neutral palette the brand just released. I did like that much more, and I'm also interested to see has the owner maybe revamped the formulas a little bit to have them be a bit more sophisticated. I mentioned in the collective eyeshadow palette review video that I have this in, that this felt and reminded a lot about the sort of indie eyeshadow formulas that they used to be like a few years back when not all of them were that sophisticated, but now that we have moved on, even with the indie eyeshadow formulas, this just felt that some of these were just very like clumsy formulations. But as I said, I'm happy that the brand came out with a new palette because I do think that the owner has a good vision. It's just that the formula needs refining, and I want to keep trying them out. But this one is getting decluttered, and I am still excited to try out the newer one, which might have a color story more that I like, and maybe they have improved the formulas, we shall see, but this is getting away. Then let's go to GlamShop. So this is a Polish indie brand, and let's first see. So this is a palette of individual duochrome and multichrome shades, and oh yeah, that's a bit most of these are looking good to go, so I am keeping this. This has been a bit of an issue because some of these shades at times have maybe looked at, that's puffing up a little bit on the pan, but I am keeping this because some of these are a bit on a chunkier side, but I actually do like these shades, and I did pay a fair amount of money because these were individual shadows, so this is staying, but I will have to clean this up at some point. Okay, then a palette that is getting decluttered. So this is the Zilone 9 pan, and this is actually discontinued, and this is in their sort of one of their like, they used to have quite a lot more. Now they have scaled down with their ready-made, pre-made eyeshadow palettes, but they used to have a lot of these on available. This is no longer available, and I have other green palettes that I gravitate towards more. Nothing wrong with the color story and formulas. The mattes are a bit on the powdery side because this is their like more like older matte formula, but the shimmers were very pretty, but this is getting decluttered because I haven't used this in a few years time, and there are other green palettes that I like more. Okay, then the two palettes that are not going anywhere. So this is the Totally Blush Nude. This is the shimmer palette. Unfortunately, this is no longer available. This is one of the best palettes that the brand has come out with, and it was originally released with this one. So this is the matte version. This is still available on their website, and this has, I have always praised this, that this especially has a lot of matte brown tones that I don't have in any of my other sort of neutral palettes, and this formula is very beautiful. It's one of the better formulas that the brand has come out with, and this is staying because I use this with the shimmer palette. Okay, then this one, so this is the Pokusa from the brand, and I think I will still hold on from this because this is, I still do actually like this. This has few of the chunkier shimmer shades, but it is still very beautiful, and I do like the quality of this one. I haven't used it that much, but I actually do like this one, so it is staying. Okay, next let's go to Glamlite, which is a brand that I tried the first time this year, and which has been quite quickly, like, I'm now getting why the brand is so, why many people like this. So Glamlite is one of the more affordable indie brands, and they do release a lot, and they do have some variations clearly on their sort of eyeshadow quality, but at least the palettes that I've gotten have gotten the good, better eyeshadow quality. So this is the Chucky palette. This is a collab they did last year. I'm actually gonna keep this. This was a bit repetitive, and it has some gray tones, but it actually does have this sort of mauvish purplish and even this sort of wine red tone. So this is a cool tone palette that actually works for me quite well. So that is staying. And then a palette that truly did get my heart. So this is the Betty Boop palette. And this originally I was thinking that it's quite of a red palette, but actually they, aside from the reds, there are like these purple shades, and you can get some quite neutral, quite nice neutral looks. And the shimmers, especially in this one, were really like, they aren't like these super duochrome and multichrome shades, but they are still very like sparkly, and this, for example, here is a bit on the shiftier side, but a very beautiful palette if you're able to get this. And especially, I saw Monolith Shop, I think, has this on their spring sale right now, so can't guarantee that the sale is going on when the video goes live, but you can potentially get this with a quite decent price. So this is definitely something I would recommend from the brand. Let's get to the that I have some individuals from, and only two palettes. So this is the Dreamer palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. I didn't get this a raving review, but I did still say that in terms of color combinations, this is a very smart palette in the way these colors combine together, and I do think that the brand has they have improved their formula, and especially the shimmers in this one are very nice and sparkly, and I do like this color story, so it's staying. Then the two hideously expensive Ensley Reign palettes. So this is the Cold Moon palette, and this is not going anywhere. If you have watched any of my videos, you know how much I have raved about this. This is like, so far, this is still one of the favorite, this I think is still the favorite palette for me that has released this year, so this is not going anywhere. Then the Harvest Moon. So this was actually the first palette I tried from the brand, and in terms of color story, especially with the mattes, this is more on the darker side. This is definitely something, this is more a fall palette for me. And I do feel that if you just stick with the mattes of this palette, you end up getting quite dark looks. But if you mix the shimmers with maybe other kinds of mattes from other palettes, there are actually some quite nice things that you can do with these. Very high quality, very nice, but with Ensley Reign, I have always said that pick 1 or 2 palettes that you like in terms of color story and stick with those, but don't necessarily collect everything from the brand because the brand is very expensive, and at some point with duochromes and multichromes you start to get like doubles and triples, so there is only also a limit to how many of those you can actually formulate. Then 2 palettes that are not going anywhere, so these are the Blend Bunny. So this is the Sickly Sweet. This is excellent pastel quality, especially if you love your neon pastels. The shimmers are also very beautiful and sparkly. They don't have that much base to them, so with the shimmers I do give the warning that whatever matte you will layer the shimmers on, they will kind of blend in with them, so that's just something to consider. But very beautiful, excellent quality, especially for the shades that they are included. Then next one is the Dollhouse palette. So this is still my favorite. This is still my favorite Blend Bunny palette and one of the best indie palettes that I have tried. The formulas in this are just beautiful. The mattes are creamy, the shimmers are creamy. Not the sort of duochrome, multichrome shimmers, but still very beautiful, impactful shimmers. Blend Bunny just announced a new palette, and that's also more neutral leaning, cool toned one, and I am now considering that will I get it. I will wait and see because Blend Bunny is stocked in Monolith Shop, which is European retailer for indie brands. I will have to see when they are planning to stock the newer palette, because they are, I think, having a launch at the end of June, but I don't know will the new Blend Bunny palette make it to the June launch or will they just have it in the July launch, but nevertheless both of the Blend Bunny palettes that I have, these are staying. Then let's get to the, what brand are we talking about? Adept. So Adept Cosmetics, this is the Sumerian Sunset. This is not going anywhere. This is like this again ranked very highly last year amongst my indie eyeshadow palettes, and this is very, very beautiful, very unique. Only thing that I wasn't a huge fan of the mattes are, only a couple of the mattes are something that I actually do like working with, and the matte formula is something the brand definitely has to work on, but these shimmers are just beautiful. Okay, next the Minka palette. With this one I have said that first of all I think they should have made this an all shimmer palette, because again the mattes aren't the best that the Adept has made, and with these, especially when you only have 2 mattes that are on the sort of same shade that of purple, this is only a bit deeper than this one, but there isn't a super lot of variety. Also, something I have said about these are the chunkier shimmers, especially if you have textured or sensitive eyes. I wouldn't get this one, and also some of the silver shimmers actually do look kind of similar on the eyes, but this is still staying because there are certain occasions that I do like to use this one. And then the Plain Jane Remastered, and this has the older Adept formula. Do I want to get rid of these? I have used this, and I do actually like that this has the sort of smoother shimmer formula, because now they have experimented with their shimmers, and some of them, they still have this sort of smooth shimmers, but they do, in the Minka they had the very chunky ones, and also in the Sumerian Sunset some of them were chunky. I think I will hold on from this one, but if I feel at the end of the year that I am still on the fence about, then I will just get rid of this at the end of this year. But I will try to use this a couple of more times during this year to feel that has the time of this passed already, or do I want to keep it. But for now this is also staying. Let's get some of the individuals. So Glaminatrix, this will go into my rotation, I think, if not in my next rotation, then rotation after it. So this is the Rich Romance, and I said that unfortunately my experience with the shimmers wasn't that great. All of them creased on me no matter what I did to them. But the mattes were still very beautiful, and the shimmers are very beautiful, and they are very impactful. So I'm giving this another go, but if I still feel that I have issues with the shimmers, then I will just get rid of this one, because the shimmers make up half of the palette, and if I can't use half of the palette, then it's no use keeping it. But still, if you haven't had issues with Glaminatrix formula and like this color story, this is a beautiful palette, and it has a beautiful color story. It's just that, unfortunately, with my lid type, I had quite a lot of issues with this one, but I am giving this a second chance before finally decluttering. So for now it's staying, but we shall see at the end of the year how we will end up. Then the Gourmande Girls palette. This is the Warriors Wear Pink. This has a very nice quality, and I have been just waiting for Gourmande Girl to come out with another color story that I want to try out, because the especially the mattes, because mattes usually aren't the thing that indie palettes are very good at, especially when they start out, but this one had the most blendable, buildable, buttery mattes that I have tried in a while. Also, the shimmers are very beautiful, they are very impactful, and I'm just hoping that Gourmande girls would come out with another palette that has a color story that I like, because I truly would want to try it more with them. But this is definitely staying. Then the Lethal palette. This is a palette that I made on my own. They have a palette builder. I do actually think Lethal is quite smart. They do have a nice sort of a palette builder on their website. So this has their individual shadows. I am obviously gonna keep this. I will say about the shimmers. All the shimmers I think that I have in this one are categorized as duo or multi-chromes, but you do have to, they are more sheer in terms of base, so to get full impact of the Lethal shimmers, I felt that at least the shimmer shades that I have with this one, I feel that you really have to layer them to get the full impact, because otherwise they will be a bit more sheer on the lids. The matte quality was, I'd say, quite good. It's not the sort of best matte quality that I have ever tried in an indie palette, but it's still very workable and it does build on your lid. But especially if you're expecting super shifty shimmers, then prepare that some of the Lethal shimmers aren't like that. I haven't tried their most recent shimmer formula, so I can't say it because this is like a year old, but if you buy some of their older palettes, just be aware that the shimmers might be more on the buildable side, but still very nice. And especially if you live in Europe, Lethal is a German brand. This is a good indie brand to try out, because they also aren't like the most expensive indie brands. What are we gonna do? P. Louise. So there's going to come out in a video a few weeks time when I will be discussing my experience with the P. Louise purchase I made during already, I think it wasn't during April, and it was an order that I did discuss on my channel quite a lot many times, and then I stopped talking about it because there were some issues with it, and both of these palettes are staying, and you will be seeing the products from the order that I finally got now that we're on June. As I said, this whole ordeal with them started when I made the order during April, so it's been a few months time that I've been keeping quiet about the brand, but now that I did get my order finally, I will be making a separate video about that, but there's a reason why I haven't been talking about this brand on my channel that much. But these are the palettes that I got on my Black Friday order during last year. So this is the Fall in Love palette. Good neutral palette, shimmers very beautiful and very impactful, not super shifty shimmers, but still very nice to use, and this is staying. And this is the If Looks Good Chill palette, and again it has the sort of the bottom half of this one, and my god, these are a bit clunky to use, and then there is the sort of top layer. Not going to declutter this. Blue is not my preferred color story altogether, but it is still like, especially because I don't have an all blue, like other all blue palettes in my collection, this has a place, and that is why it's also staying. Then let's get to cosmic brushes. Oh, sorry, I hit my camera. So this is one of my favorite indie brands. I do think they are now called Cosmic Beauty. They have announced, and they will be coming out with two neutral palettes when I'm filming this. I'm still on the fence about the neutral palettes. So with the neutral palettes, I think I'm actually filming this on the day when those palettes will be launching. So I think with them I will be waiting, because I do know Monolith Shop will be stocking them in their June launch, which is going to be at the end of this month. So actually I might actually hold off and still think that will I get one or both of the neutral palettes, because I have seen quite a lot of videos from them, and I'm still not like full 100% on board that do I want to get them. But anyway, let's go through the ones. So this is the ones that I have. So this is the Serenity palette. This is, I think, what made them like very famous. I'm gonna keep this one. This has been one of those palettes that I've been thinking that should I keep this, should I get rid of this, because the color story is not 100% something that I prefer, mainly because it has this sort of blues and brighter greens, but I am still now thinking this was actually in my rotation during springtime, so I am still going to keep this. Then my favorite pastel palette, so this is the Delicious Delights. This was their summer release last year. Very beautiful, very impactful pastels, and this shows that you can make, like, pastel shades aren't sheer, you can actually make them to be very, very punchy. Then this is the Muse palette. This is still my favorite palette from the brand altogether, and this was sort of I think this was their sort of version of a neutral palette now before the newer neutral palettes that they have now announced that they are coming out with, but this is still a very beautiful palette from the brand, and if you have been eyeing this, I would 100% still recommend getting it. And then this one, so this was actually their original, like a lot of people are always that the Serenity was their first sort of palette, but this was actually their first sort of like an palette that they made. So this is the Royal Rose palette, and this is especially something that I will be grabbing now that we are on the summer months, because it has this sort of punchier, warmer shades. And aside from this one shade over here, still all the shades are very beautiful, and the mattes are the good buttery matte formula that they have. But none of those are going away. Then my Oden side pile, and I think again nothing is going to get decluttered. So this is the Jewels and Gems. This was my favorite palette the brand come out with last year. I'm actually still waiting that is Oden side going to come out with a summer collection, because they had their sort of extension to their individual shadow release the shadow range recently in a release, but now I'm still thinking that will they come out with a summer palette, because usually they have had a summer collection. But anyway, back to this one, not going anywhere, one of the most beautiful, wonderful neutral palettes with a twist that I have in my collection, and this is not going anywhere. This has actually been in my rotation again recently. I have been happy. This is one of the, I think this is still like the favorite palette that I have from the brand altogether. So this is the Hella palette. This was the original collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist, and this is how it looks like. And this is my favorite sort of green palette with a twist that I do like, and it's just still, the formula is very beautiful, and the color combination of this in general is one of the more unique ones that I have. Okay, the Alva palette. Now this is a bit on the I have been like hoping that they would come out with a refreshed version of some kind of pink neutral palette, so I could like ditch this one. The formulas in this are very beautiful, but this is definitely, you can see that it's, especially with the shimmers, this is their older formula. The shimmers are more on the metallic side compared to the like more impactful shimmers that they have in their like current palettes, but I'm gonna keep this one, but if they release a sort of pink toned neutral palette, sort of refreshed or revamped version of something similar to this one, then this is gonna get ditched, and then I'm gonna get a new palette, because as I said, the shimmers are their older formula. I still like the design and everything of this, but it's just like it is in the older formula and it shows. Okay, so this is the Halloween collection. This is the second collaboration that Angelica Nyqvist did with the brand. So they came out with 2 palettes and some lip products in that collection, and this is how it looks like. I'm gonna still keep this one. I have been trying it out a few times after I initially got it during last fall. I'm still getting my head around this, that do I want to keep this around, but I have like, generally, even though it has this sort of blues that I don't usually like, but the looks that I generally have made with this one, I have been happy with them, and some of the shimmers in this are quite fun. So far this is getting to stay. And then we all know these are one of my favorite palettes from them also all time. None of these are going away. So this is the Merry Christmas palette. This is how it looks like. Not going anywhere. This definitely has the best formula the brand has ever made. I don't know what happened during last year when they had some issues. For example, the holiday palettes that I did end up decluttering from last year, that were just one of the most horrible palettes that I've tried from them. The pastels in those and the shimmers in those just didn't work out, and I don't know like what they did with those palettes, because comparing these to the holiday palettes they had like last year, also like Night and Day, and these have the like, I was just thinking that why aren't that they should just keep doing the formula they have done in these original Christmas palettes, because these are just like awesome in terms of formulation and also color stories. Again, this is one of the cool tone palettes that has blues that I have been thinking that why do I actually like this so much, but something about the combination of the tones that the colors of this one just makes this again something that I gravitate towards, even though it has tones that I traditionally don't like that much. But again, beautiful color story formula. As I said, I don't know what happened with the holiday palettes last year, but these holiday palettes from 2 years ago are still awesome and still has one of their best formulations. What haven't we gone through? Oh yeah, then we have the biggest file that I was saving for the last one, and then actually. So, GlossGods is a Swedish indie brand, and I'm just gonna like show that we have quite a lot to go through. So first one is the Color of the Rain. This was their all shimmer palette they came out with, all shimmer palette with blues they came out with last year. I could have done out with the matte black because it's very random, even though they have advertised that, of course, you can sort of change the duochrome multichrome effect when you layer it on a black, but honestly, if someone wants to use a black matte, then I think they could just go to another palette. So I would have rather they would have just put another shimmer in place of this one, but nevertheless, it's a beautiful palette. Blue shimmers generally not my favorite, but there are some nice tones and some nice shifts to this one, so it is staying. Vintage Glam. Oh my god, this has one of the shadows that I still don't think that I have managed to, yeah. I really have to I have now talked in multiple videos of repressing the golden shade in the upper corner, so that will be on my to-do list because now because now we have entered the summertime and my work is getting a bit quieter, so I should have time dealing with my makeup collection. I have to, like, that's gonna break down. This would be, I think, if we would have to say what's my favorite GlossGods palette, it would be this one because it has a nice mix of pinks, neutrals, and nice shimmers. And yeah, we're just gonna close that one before we're gonna have an accident. Okay, now I'm actually gonna do something. I'm gonna take one of the palettes from the bottom. So this is the new neutrals. This is the Let's Get Nude. This was their bronzy neutral palette. This is their newest palette that they have. This was their sort of original neutral palette, and I'm actually gonna do something that I have been meant to do for a while, which is actually compare the two and see which one. So what are we? I'm sorry about the mirrors. Those are probably. What are we gonna do? So this had one of the Dutch shades, which was this one that was tried out already when I got the palette, so I can't use that one. And then we have this one that's definitely more on the bronzier side. I don't need both of them. So I think we will do so that we're gonna get this one. Like, it's not that I have a super big need to actually declutter like either of these, but I just think that I don't need two neutrals. Yeah, this is a bit bronzier, but this also, as you probably see, was actually also, it is quite on the warm. It is also quite on the warm side, so this is definitely bronzier. This is a warmer shade. There's a couple of golden shades, as you can see. This is definitely a bronzier brown shade. That's a bronzier brown shade, so yeah, I think that just because of age, I'm gonna let go of this one because I truly don't need both of the like neutral palettes. So this is getting decluttered. And the Let's Get Nude, so this was their sort of bronze palette from this summer. This is getting to stay. Then Look for the Rainbow. So this is their Rainbow Shimmer palette. This is also getting a bit old, but this is not going anywhere. I actually have used this. I especially have used this with some of the colorful pastel palettes that I own because those palettes are something, for example, the Cosmic Portraits palette doesn't have as many shimmers as it does have matte, so I've actually liked using them together, so this is still staying. But then we are having the Dancing in the Sky. So this is their all green shimmer palette, and I think this is also something that I'm just gonna let go because I have tried to use this with the Beauty Bay Earthy palette, which is the all green palette that I have, but I have found out that I actually then just stick with the shimmers on the Beauty Bay Earthy palette. So because these are just not shimmer shades that I gravitate towards because of their tones, I am getting rid of this one also. Wasn't actually expecting to get rid of so many GlossGods palettes, but hey, it's good that we're making progress with the palettes that I don't use. So Lavender Skies, this is a bit of a one-tone palette, but I still do actually like it, and some of the shimmer shades in this one are very beautiful, so it is not going anywhere. Then the original Girl on the Moon and Girl on the Mars palette, so these are their sort of OG palettes that made them very, very famous amongst the indie makeup community, and these are not going anywhere. These do have a bit of an older formula, so especially these sort of smooth multi-chrome shimmers that both of these palettes have. So in this one it's the Gravity and the Big Bang. I can't use these, those just crease no matter what kind of formula or what kind of like eyeshadow base I use with them. But they did reformulate the Girl on the Moon and Girl on the Mars palette, so I'm hoping that the newer reformulated palettes that those would have, maybe they would have gotten rid of or improved the smooth multichromes. And just like with the other one, the Full Moon, the Celestial and the Eclipse, again shades unfortunately that I can't use because they just crease away. They just like, if you use any of 3 of these on your lids or the shades that I showed in the Girl on the Mars palette, you will at the end of the day have no eyeshadow on your lids. At least with me. If I don't know, maybe some other lid type that's not so creasy or something that is do they actually stick better, but at least for me they are unusable. But the other shimmers, very beautiful and very nice and very impactful, and I do think that they actually still like compete with some other multichromes that I have from other indie brands. But yeah, those were the sort of last of the palettes, and now I'm just gonna film a quick outro, and we will get this filming session to an end. So I do think that we actually did get rid of, like, I wasn't planning of decluttering like a big amount of palettes, but I definitely felt that there was definitely a need to sort out my collection, because there were like palettes that I've been noticing during the springtime that I'm just not using, and it's no use of having them take space in my drawers if I don't use them. So these are kind of like good videos to film, because they do actually make you consider what you use and what you don't use. And yeah, I think that I will now get these reordered, and I do actually have to, I'm looking at the bedding in front of me, I have to get that also cleaned up before going to sleep. But comment down below, what did you think about the palettes that I decluttered, or were there, on the palettes that I kept, are there any favorites that are also staying in your collection, and what kind of makeup have you been buying and using lately? I'm certainly a person who's more into the seasonal makeup, so I like to rotate my sort of palettes in terms of color story that I like to use during different seasons. If you like this video, then push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from my future videos. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll be seeing you in another video soon. Bye bye!